Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop at the Burn, Nick, and we have an interesting episode for you today. Not like all those other ones that I do with all those other guys where we're talking about cigars and shit. No, today we're talking about emergencies. And with us, we have an individual, and I'm going to preface this to start because, so when you're working with people that are government employees, sometimes you got to be a little, sensitive to their positions. And so in this case, we're going to change the name to protect our person, because just because we're gonna keep things that way, a little private. But today we have Cherry Chernobyl from who works at a regional emergency management office. And so we're going to talk about emergency. How are you, Cherry?
I am doing well, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your desire to protect the names of the innocent, as it were.
Yes, yes.
I am more than happy to speak to the profession, but I am not as such authorized to speak on behalf of my individual department.
Which is why we will not be asking very specific questions about your specific department, but we are going to be discussing kind of the concept in general a little bit, and emergencies and kind of, I don't know. I find the topic kind of fascinating. It's one of those things that we see all these movies and TV shows when there's disasters and stuff like that, and there's a certain level of expectation of like the government's going to come in and save us, and so it's like I just kind of want to, like what actually, to some degree of generalization, maybe can we expect, but then also like what should we be kind of doing on our own? Because I do feel like when we get into like an emergency situation, there's a certain level of responsibility we as the individual need to take on.
That's absolutely right. And I was going to say, first off, if your hope or that your thought is that the government is going to come in and save you, unfortunately, I am here to break your heart and tell you that is more than likely not going to be the case.
Okay.
Most day-to-day run-of-the-mill emergencies, one-on-one type stuff, most people think of, I had a bad car wreck or there was a house fire. Yeah, you're going to get those first responders that are going to come in and help you and pull you out of that burning rubble, as it were. But by and large, for the big stuff, we do a lot to prepare in advance, but a lot of what we do is to help educate the public and prepare them to help themselves.
Okay.
A lot of times when people think about emergencies and emergency response, they think of the big ones, the police, the fire, the paramedics. I am none of those things. So the way that I like to describe to people what emergency management is, what emergency management does, is to compare it to a theatrical production, a play.
Okay.
You, the general public, you're in the audience and you're here to watch the show. And on stage, you've got all the razzle and dazzle. You've got the cops running in with their gear. You've got the firefighters saving lives, being America's heroes, right? You've got your paramedics. You might have your special teams, your SWAT, your urban search and rescue, hazmat, all the flash, the razzle dazzle everybody wants to see. But what you don't see are the people behind the scenes, the stagehands, props, set. There are people behind the scenes that have to make conditions such so that the production can happen.
Okay.
So in practical terms, that comes down to things like logistics requests, equipment in an emergency, before emergencies. A lot of what we do is planning. We do a lot of training, whether it's training ourselves, training first responders, even training members of the public. A lot of people have heard about citizen police academies, but
I've taken one.
Okay,
I've done that.
So that is a degree of that preparedness and being informed from the law enforcement, public safety side of things.
Okay.
There are community emergency response teams, or CERT programs that
You
exist
guys do
all
love
over
your
the country.
acronyms.
Oh,
It's government. They love their
I
acronyms.
tell you, it's FEMA. I am not kidding. FEMA has a book that is often referred to as the FEMA Bible. It is probably thicker than a Bible. It is all acronyms.
Nice.
It is a FEMA book of acronyms. I dream in acronyms, Nick. Let me tell you.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes it's a nightmare. But
Well, you know what I dream about? I dream about firing up a cigar. So, real quick, before we go too far down
yeah.
this rabbit hole,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do that. So, tonight, I figured it'd be appropriate. I have a cigar that was gifted to me by listener Toby. And Toby gifted me the Warfighter Dumpster Fire. And it seemed appropriate, given the fact that we're talking about emergencies, to smoke something, that not only has a dumpster fire on the band, but it's called the dumpster fire. Now, I looked up Warfighter's dumpster fire on their website, and apparently it was sold in 5-packs for $30. The dumpster fire is their version of a mixed filler cigar. They use the trimmings from their core line of cigars and add a few long filler leaves into the cigar to improve construction and burn. The cigar is a medium-bodied cigar with an array of flavors. Because of the robust mixture of tobaccos, the exact flavor profile will vary slightly. Made to be a more cost-effective smoke, the dumpster fire is a good choice for an everyday smoke. Designed and developed during 2020, they wanted to capture the essence of that year, hence the dumpster fire. And in true 2020 fashion, production, shipping, and importing of these were delayed, and they did not receive them until 2021. So, there we go. Anyway, the dumpster fire is a 6x50 Toro featuring a Habano wrapper, mixed filler with longleaf tobacco, and is handmade in Esteli, Nicaragua. And so now it is time to cut the cigar, and the official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. Two Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows Two Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You will not be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and awesome customer service. I use them. I don't know why you're not using them. You should. I got a nice shipment of Aladino Cameroon Reserva and Fuma Noche and JFR Lunatic Firecrackers just the other day, and it was packed wonderfully, arrived really, really quickly, and I was super happy with it. But guys, please go to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. And remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. Now, Cherry, you've never listened to my show, have you?
I have, admittedly, I have listened to a little bit, a little here and there. I don't think that I've told you, but
Okay.
I have listened
I didn't know that.
Admittedly, I don't smoke cigars.
Well, yeah.
I have actually never smoked a cigar.
We could fix that tonight if you want to,
but that being said, I have listened to a little here and there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the cold draw. Kind of sweet. I don't know. I'm just going to go at it because I figure with this being a mixed filler, it's kind of one of those, you're going to get what you're going to get. And I'm just hoping that, construction holds up.
Well, like with any dumpster fire, you're just going to have to go for it,
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I do like the guys from Warfighter. I've met them a couple times at TPE. I did not realize they had a, for lack of a better term, like a budget or affordable kind of option like this. I didn't realize that they were doing this, but hey, whatever.
The working man's cigar.
Mm-hmm. They're a good company. They veteran owned and operated. They do a lot of veteran donations, things of that nature. So
that's great.
It's pretty nice. So anyway, so all right. You kind of touched on a lot earlier, but I want to drill this down. So when we think about emergency management, obviously you brought up FEMA, so we're thinking like big disasters, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just that. Like, it's little things, what are, like, I know you guys, I can't say that. Yeah. So what kind of stuff, what's the range?
Sure. Anything and everything, just about. We talk about an all hazards approach in emergency management. So that covers a spectrum of anything from natural disasters, flash flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, to human-caused disasters, cyber attacks.
Okay, so that brings up
Okay.
So you obviously, I know in the past you've given me like some weather updates. So you're
Sure.
obviously keeping tabs on local weather and
Yep.
making sure that like, hey, is a tornado about to hit? We need to be
Sure.
aware of that kind of thing. But like, so like recently the airlines had that whole Microsoft snafu.
Yeah.
Did that come up at all in any of your stuff? Did that impact anything with you guys?
Not too much on my level where I'm at.
Yeah.
Working in the St. Louis area, the airport falls in the purview. But that really didn't impact us too much, admittedly. But it is something that we keep an eye out for. The other thing too is when something big like that happens, most people's first thought is, oh, it was a hack.
Yeah.
So that's, with that in particular, that's when we go to our folks in the intelligence community. Again, those backstage players, they're kind of backstage with us a little bit, and kind of talk to them and see what information they have. And then, we don't necessarily wait to hear the news to tell us whether or not, it's a bug in a software update or if it's a malicious attack. We look to our partners in the intelligence community for that kind of information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Before I have a couple of scenarios that I want to throw at you to see like what the response to these scenarios are.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I guess I should say, so like I said, one of the main things that I feel like you guys promote is kind of personal responsibility in case of disaster. Like, what can the individual... So what should just the average person... Because, I got listeners all over the place. So it's not just like a local region kind of thing. But, like, in terms of somebody who lives... What are some common things that somebody who lives in, let's say, like, Southern California versus, like, Upper Maine, can share?
Sure.
Because there's things that I'm sure people can all do.
100%. When it comes to preparedness, we push 3 main messages. The first is to make a plan.
Okay.
The second is to build a kit. And then the third is to stay informed. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it.
Got to have your bug out bag.
Right, exactly. So making a plan, whether that plan is, are we going to shelter here? Are we going to evacuate? If then types of scenarios. Having, plans with your family. All right, if everything goes to shit, this is where we're meeting at Uncle Steve's cabin.
Yeah.
Right? Or, that kind of thing. Building a kit, that is... It sounds more daunting than it is, because you talk about bug out bag. People think, well, I'm not a prepper. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't have a straw that can filter water, that kind of thing. But really, the things that we recommend people have in a kit, most people already have. A flashlight, batteries, a first aid kit, backup medication, if you can, depending on what you're on and what your insurance is going to cover. But, a non-perishable canned food, a manual can opener.
True.
Matches or a lighter. I always
Every
recommend
one of my
somebody
listeners
have fire.
has matches and a lighter. I was gonna say.
This is the right show for that. Absolutely.
We have fire.
That's when you say, babe, I don't have too many lighters. I don't have no. I'm being prepared.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
And then staying informed. So obviously keeping an eye on local media, signing up for alerts, whether it's through your local municipality. A lot of local cities have alert.
And shit, if it's so bad, your cell phone's just going to scare the shit out of you when you're driving or wherever you're at anyway, when they start feeding out the
That's
alerts,
exactly right. Well, I wish I had the year. I should have looked this up beforehand. I apologize. But a few years ago, this happened in Hawaii. Somebody was testing. It's called the iPod. They were testing their emergency, wide-reaching alert system, and they had sent out an alert saying that there was an inbound missile attack headed for Hawaii. This is not a drill.
I remember when that went down.
And
that
it
was
was
a big damn deal.
38 minutes was the delay until somebody got back on and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
And a
But
lot of panic can happen in 38 minutes.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of tight sphincters in Hawaii. That's a hard 38 minutes to live. I gotta imagine.
And that's one of those like, well, if I got this much time to live, what do I do? It's
Right.
like,
how many people quit their jobs and took off? And
yeah. It's like, I've always wanted to mess around with the boss's wife. Now's the time.
Now's
it's like,
my chance.
It's like, I'm going to rob the drugstore and I'm going to, I mean, like, what is going on in Hawaii at that point,
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. That's what I'm surprised
Yeah.
about, that I didn't hear about more chaos and,
Well, that's good.
Purge Night activated.
That speaks to the inner morals of the Hawaiian people. And so, you know what? Good on you, Hawaii.
That's right.
Good on you.
Using your powers for good rather than evil. We appreciate that. No, but so yeah, you're right. If something big happens, yeah, you're gonna get those big alerts. But also, the Red Cross. I mean, I don't work for the Red Cross, but they do have an emergency app that is pretty good about sending alerts. And stuff you need to know.
They're just going to beg you to donate blood every 2 weeks.
Well, that doesn't hurt, right? But
No, I was going to say we should not be making fun of donating blood. But actually, I don't know, on a completely unrelated subject, I mean, I got an email today from a blood drive talking about how, like, supplies are, like, dangerously low.
Sure.
So this is my PSA moment. If you guys are into donating blood, you should look into that, because I suspect that if they're dangerously low in the St. Louis region, they probably are elsewhere too.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, that's a good unrelated subject, because I am actually a big proponent of blood donations. I actually donate platelets because I have a freakishly high platelet count. So
There you go.
That's how they get the best bang for their buck out of my blood, as odd as that sounds to say.
Okay. I remember guys when I was in college that used to donate plasma, but they were doing it to pay their bills. So,
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a hot date night, right? You both go donate blood and get a six-pack.
Right. I mean, and after donating blood, that six-pack's going to make you extra loopy, extra quick.
That's a cheap date.
Uh-huh.
And it's one you can feel good about, because you've helped fellow man.
My buddy Carl and I, one time, we were so fucking poor. We pooled together our money, and the liquor store was doing a sale. It was buy 3, get 1 free on Boone's Farm wine, right? And we pooled together our money to where we had enough to buy the 3 to get 1 free. And then that way we each had 2 bottles, right? So we did that. And we picked out our 2 flavors each, and we go over to our buddy Joe's house. And, we sat around, played video games. We were dumb. And we each drank a fucking bottle of this shit.
Ooh.
And after we finished our bottles, I look over at Carl, and he's just kind of sitting there looking all kind of bleh. And I'm like,
so
I'm like, dude, feeling all right? He goes, no. And I'm like, you drunk? He goes, no. I'm like, you sick? He goes, oh yeah. And I'm like, me too. I'm like, So from that point on, Boone's Farm, sober to sick with none of the fun in between.
You're right.
Right. So.
Tastes like sugar and regret.
It really did, especially the next day. Oh, fuck. A wine hangover, even especially cheap wine, there's very little worse. All right. Anyway, I digress.
Yes. So making a plan, building a kit, and staying informed. Those are the general overarching preparedness activities that we kind of push people towards.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people, like with the kit, a lot of people have this stuff already.
Yeah.
A lot of people are already thinking about this stuff. If you keep an umbrella in your car, you're thinking about preparedness. You just might not realize it.
Okay. So, all right. During the eclipse, the solar eclipse that happened earlier this year, there was a lot of traffic backup.
Oh, yeah.
And people were on the highway for a long damn time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get up to Maryville to pay my taxes that day. And so I was weaving back roads in order to avoid taking the highway up there. and I was passing over highways, and I was seeing this traffic back up, and it was ridiculous. And it got me thinking. These were people all heading to southern Illinois or southern Missouri, so that they were in the path of totality for this eclipse. And this is a percentage of the population heading to that area. A percentage of people who could get off work or were interested and were able to get off work. So a subset of a subset of a subset, you know? And the traffic was backed up for miles and miles and miles, as far as the eye could see. And then on the way back from that, I mean, people were in traffic from, well, shit, it ended by like 2 p.m. or something like that. And I think, I mean, people didn't get home till midnight or later, you know?
Yeah.
Because of the traffic.
Hours.
Now, obviously, in a mass emergency, you're going to open up both sides of the highway. You're not just going to have traffic going one way to where you have lanes going the opposite way that are wide open and people are just like driving by going, ha ha, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, even with that, even with those 3 extra lanes going the other way, knowing that that's a subset of a subset, and during an emergency, it will be everybody.
Right.
I mean, you're kind of boned.
I mean, yeah. If I'm being honest, and I can speak a little more candidly, since we're using a nickname.
Because you're going with Cherry.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
This is Cherry speaking.
Yeah.
Mass evacuations in particular are one of the things that I don't want to say it keeps me up at night, but that's a phrase we use in emergency management, is what keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of planning for the unknown, the worst of the worst, you know, thinking about your worst days are our daydreams, because this is what we think about. That's one
dark.
of the things.
It's dark, but okay.
It is very dark.
Okay.
It is very dark. Basically, when skies are blue, we plan for when they're gray or when they're black.
There you go.
But mass evacuations.
Or red, because the aliens are invading. But we'll get to that in a minute.
The mass evacuations, though, really and truly are one of the things that metaphorically keep me up at night, because everything you're saying is absolutely true. Even with opening up all the roadways to the best of your ability, and let's be honest, something massive, you know, you're not going to have cops available to sit around and direct traffic. People will make roads of their own if it's really that bad.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
So, like, we're in the St. Louis region. We're on a fault line, a fairly major fault line.
That's right.
One that hasn't done anything in a while.
Yeah.
But
well, and the thing, too, that you've got to think about with earthquakes, you know, you talk about the fault line. That's probably our biggest threat. Low probability, high consequence event.
Yeah.
But when you think about that, your bridges are going to be structurally unsound. And
we have a lot of bridges separating Illinois and Missouri.
That's exactly right. I mean, even on either side, there are a lot of bridges. So you talk about an earthquake, something big like that. Essentially, every little community, every little neighborhood, depending on how and where they're cut off, essentially becomes an island. And, you know, when you talk about the government coming in to save you, if your little community is an island, you are going to have to figure out how to make it on your own until the people that come in to help can get people out and resources in. So that's where that kit and that plan and being informed comes into play, because there is, like you said, a certain amount of personal responsibility that you'll have to have until the helpers can help.
Well, and how much time? I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I mean, how much shit do you need to have on hand?
Well,
I mean, because, like, realistically, people have space issues, you know? I mean...
Sure. Usually for water, the recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day.
Okay.
So what I kind of tell people is, you know, I don't know how many of you still do grocery delivery or grocery pickup. I like pickup because, honestly, it's just easier. I spend less money with impulse purchases, I'll say that too. But, you know, every once in a while when I do a grocery order, I'll just tack on a gallon of water or a case of bottled water and just stash that in one of my closets. Or, you know, living in St. Louis, we get a lot of tornado sirens and tornado warnings.
Uh-huh.
And so I keep mine in the basement. I got this spot in the basement. So little things like that to be prepared. So a gallon of water per person per day, you got to hope, I'm thinking realistically for myself, me and my family,
Yeah.
I could probably do about 3 days.
Okay.
About 3 days worth of water. Food, a little less than that, but I feel like you're eating to live at that point if you're digging into your disaster supply kit.
Yeah, you're not getting the munchies in the middle
You're
of
right.
it. Yeah.
I'm not pulling out the Funyuns. I'm going to make do with what I've got, but it is certainly a lot of doom and gloom to think about sometimes, admittedly. Not always the most lighthearted of subjects, but...
No, but I find it fascinating. And, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm going to throw out a couple of scenarios here.
Sure.
And I'm going to kind of ask you, generally, not specifically, because I know we can't get into utter specifics because, you got to keep some things, secret. But, so let's say the Great Chicago Fire. You have this massive fire that starts spreading. What's kind of the operation procedure for something of that manner?
Well, if you're looking at a big, massive fire, obviously shelter in place is not going to happen.
No.
You're going to want to evacuate. That's when you're running into that scenario where everybody's out on the road. As with any big, large-scale disaster, the first thing that I'm thinking is to get that elected official on the phone, whether it is your mayor or your city manager, whoever is running the show in that particular jurisdiction, they need to get on the phone with the governor to get an emergency declaration.
Yeah.
We need, for anybody in the audience that may know or be in the know, we need a Stafford Act declaration. And that kind of seems a little odd to think that the first call is going to be to the politicians, but that is what unlocks all
doors.
of the assistance you're going to need. That's exactly right. Disasters begin and end locally.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a flash flood, an earthquake, the Chicago fire. Your first responders, the first decision makers are always going to be your locals. And then they're going to realize, oh shit.
We're in over our head.
We are in over our heads.
Yeah.
We need to go up to the county or to the state, and then the state needs to go up to federal. But that essentially unlocks a flood of resources and money, which is the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Every government budget runs lean on these local levels especially.
Yeah.
Nobody's got the money to pay for all of this stuff that it's going to take, all of the firefighting efforts for that Chicago fire. Nobody's got money for that.
Yeah.
Nobody's got the personnel, the workforce for that. So we got to get that disaster declaration, because as soon as you do, that starts the clock on bringing everybody to play.
Okay. So one day, sitting in your car, you're in traffic. It's no big deal. You're just jamming out to the radio. The clouds part, and suddenly, fucking giant saucer in the sky. Aliens have arrived, and they are ready to start getting crazy.
And they are not happy to see us.
So what is the emergency management response to that? Because I've seen Independence Day, and it looks like a fucking shit show. I'm just saying. I don't have confidence in the government to be taking care of me during alien invasion.
That's when we look for the half-intoxicated crop dusting pilot to jump in and save us. You're right.
I mean, theoretically, there's also the Mars Attacks perspective, where we send out Sarah Jessica Parker and her little dog, but that didn't end well either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
right. So, in another life, in my emergency management world, I specialized in counterterrorism planning.
Okay.
So that kind of, every emergency manager has their own particular flavor. Some folks look at that natural disasters, and counterterrorism was kind of my bread and butter. So I hesitate to say that is my knee-jerk reaction, but if we've got the flying saucer in here,
Yeah.
and they mean business,
Yeah.
I'm looking straight at our counterterrorism planning. So we're going to be activating our mutual aid with our law enforcement partners. Again, you get that disaster declaration, you get that moved up to the federal level.
Yeah.
That's when you get the big guns. You know what I mean? You get all the resources.
Well, and if
out.
we're dealing with aliens, we're gonna need big guns.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can't speak to, the tactics of how we may go after something like that. But honestly, for the regional or the more local emergency management, that public messaging is going to be key, right? In the way that,
I mean, I kind of feel like it's the same as like an invading like national force. Like if the Russians decided to Red Dawn us, one day.
Sure.
I kind of feel like it's going to be the same situation where you're going to have local law enforcement. You're going to have all the way up to the Fed level.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be organized and all that. But let's be real. All these people with their guns in their homes.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, was that, much in the way that you mentioned the eclipse earlier.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there were coordinated public messages that were put out in certain places to tell people not to shoot at the eclipse.
Oh, God.
Don't try to shoot the eclipse out of the sky. It's not going to work. Now, there were a lot of folks during that time that were convinced that the eclipse was going to trigger something. Whether it be these aggressive visitors from an alien planet or it be some sort of apocalyptic, but really that is an aspect of emergency management, is that public messaging and communication to inform the public so that they know what's going on.
So I'm kind of fucking around here, but you're literally saying that people were like having to be educated not to shoot a fucking eclipse.
100%. And people
God
also
damn
had to
it.
be educated not to wear their eclipse glasses while they were driving in the vehicle. Because then the question is,
Good God.
well, how do I look at the eclipse while I'm driving?
You don't.
You don't, right?
You pull over.
You see now
Oh, my
why
God.
I've got such great job security, right? So
Yeah.
public messaging, we get the aliens out here. Now, if I were speaking in my official capacity, I would say that we would probably direct people not to go out and try to fight the aliens. But you're not talking to that person right now. You're talking to Cherry Chernobyl. And Cherry Chernobyl is saying that this is fucking America, and if the aliens are going to come in here,
We're going to find them.
they think they're going to come into our house, they're going to get a
Well,
proper introduction,
okay.
okay?
And here's the thing. Yeah, I like that. But here's the thing. You're also in the Midwest.
Sure.
And in the Midwest, we can get tornado warnings all day long. But we still fucking go out on our front porch and look for it.
This is the show me state. Missouri is the show me
Yeah.
state.
We're not, hanging out like in the basement, like, those pansies out in California and whatnot that are going to be like, oh my God, a tornado. It's like, no. No, we're looking for it.
Well, and again, see, if I were speaking in my official capacity, I would
should
say
be in the basement.
you should absolutely go in that basement. But the Midwest, born and raised woman
Yeah.
in me says,
We're
porch sitting.
Yes.
You go out on the
exactly.
porch and you watch the storm.
And so in this case, the proper response is do not engage the aliens. Let the proper authorities do that. But in reality, you're going to fight the aliens. And I kind of feel like this is also the similar kind of tactic as with the zombie apocalypse and uprising.
Now that one is interesting because the response could be different depending on like what kind of what kind of zombies are we talking about? Are we talking about Walking Dead zombies that are a little slower, or are we talking about 28 days later,
the fast ones,
ravenous? Because if it's Walking Dead zombies,
Yeah.
I'm going to shelter in place, and those zombies are going
yeah.
to be easier to generally corral and kind of limit their flow of movement and then take them all out at once. But if you're talking about 28 days later zombies, I'm envisioning a lot more problems, even on the response side.
I also feel like an outbreak, you'd have to have outbreak protocols in place with a zombie as well. You wouldn't necessarily
That's
with
exactly
an
right.
alien.
Yes.
I mean, you might, just to be on the safe side, but like you definitely would with a zombie because you
Yeah.
have to, keep people that have been bitten or scratched, under
Exactly.
control.
There's a public
yeah.
health component to
Precisely,
that as well.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if we're talking 28 days later zombies, folks, there's no contact tracing. That's not happening. Okay?
Oh my God. Oh my. We're gonna
It's
leave
just-
the pandemic notes, but
Oh,
God,
no.
there's a phrase that I had forgotten about, and then it just sprang immediately back into the mind, and I'm just like, oh God, fucking contact tracing. Anyway, so the other one that I was gonna inquire about that I feel is also problematic, and I just don't know if our government is prepared for it, is kaiju, specifically like Godzilla. And, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Now, I can tell you, I am not aware of any jurisdiction currently having an emergency operations plan for kaiju.
bullshit. Tokyo's got a plan.
I hope
They
Tokyo
do.
has a plan.
If
I hope.
anybody does, it's Tokyo.
Yeah, if the city of New York City, New York does not have a King Kong emergency operations plan,
Right?
and they would like one, I am volunteering my services to help them create this document.
and
I
see-
want to make sure we're protected.
And they got to get creative with it here because it's not just a matter of, there's a giant ape climbing the building
Right.
and swatting at airplanes. Have you been to the monkey house at the zoo? They throw their feces.
I'm saying.
I mean, this is an ape. This is a giant ape. It's gonna, it's gonna come with an ape donger. It's gonna throw its feces. It's gonna be filthy. It's gonna be aggressive. Like I kind of feel like this could result in a lot of like R-rated, potentially X-rated, material coming from, King Dong or King Kong, whatever you want to call him. So like, I just feel like we need to get creative when we're putting together our kaiju plans because, each one could potentially bring a different scenario.
Well, you're right. And there are not enough disaster cleanup companies that exist that can tackle a job like cleaning up piles of King Kong shit.
Or Godzilla. He's radioactive. Now you got radioactive lizard
and that's
poo.
exactly right. Now you have hazardous materials incident.
Yes.
You're going to have to quarantine those folks off that maybe have been exposed to radioactive material.
I'm going to say,
and then with
Cherry Chernobyl, which you've been to Chernobyl.
Yes, I have.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
All right,
Because,
yeah.
what in the hell? Okay, what possessed you to go to Chernobyl, first of all?
So I long before I was ever in emergency management, I've always just been fascinated by it. I really like the idea that mankind as a species has been able to harness this extraordinary power of nature, and then to see just how fucking terribly it can go wrong is incredibly fascinating to me, which I suppose puts me in the right field of work. I always, I've always been fascinated by it. And, you mentioned my name, Cherry Chernobyl. That actually used to be my roller derby name.
Okay.
So that's where that came from. And while I was playing roller derby, I had thought that it'd be a neat idea. This was back in 2009.
Yeah.
You could still go on these tours. I had to get official approval through the government of Ukraine to be able to go.
Yeah.
But I joked that it was my pilgrimage, that Cherry Chernobyl had to go back to see where it all happened.
Like, were there like two-headed foxes running around and like birds that were all like, "Hey, how you doing?" When you walk by.
As much as I was hoping to see that, no. And
Blinky, the three-eyed fish, just swimming down the stream.
Oh, I was looking.
I
was looking real hard.
It's a Simpsons reference. Anyway, yeah. So okay.
And and I even thought too that a place like that you'd step outside and you would just feel this ominous, eerie sort of vibe, right?
I 100% think that there'd be an ominous, eerie sort of vibe. Because, there's a lot of fucking death there.
Yeah.
A
lot of bad juju. But for the most part, it really wasn't that bad. We went to not only Chernobyl, where we were able to see Reactor 4 from a distance that most
what is it,
people
the
wouldn't
elephant
consider
foot?
it safe enough. Yes, now that's actually inside the reactor.
Yeah, you're not seeing that.
No, you're not seeing that.
Because that's still fucking dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and now, when I saw it in '09,
Yeah.
it was still the shitty sarcophagus with holes in it,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
see birds flying in and out. They've now since covered that whole site with what's called the new safe confinement.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. If you've never looked into this, it's essentially a dome, almost like a half dome.
Yeah.
That is airtight, and they've got machinery built into the inside of it that will dismantle the equipment and dismantle that reactor from the inside. It's supposed to be airtight for 100 years,
Okay.
which is a trip. So I'm.
But, like, what's the half-life on the friggin' elephant foot?
Oh my gosh! I
kind of feel like that thing's going to be around long from now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did read that there is some sort of a fungus or a mold that they've discovered that is growing on the elephant's
Oh,
foot.
that's not good.
And is feeding off the radioactivity.
Oh, that
So,
can't be good.
Well, I'm part of me's wondering if that's how we don't get our zombie apocalypse that you're talking about. But, I'm going to let the Ukrainians and the Russians deal with
Oh,
that.
that's
I'm
great
gonna
because
let
they're so happy working together these days still. Oh, yeah. We're lucky they haven't accidentally downed a plane into it and, like, just let everything loose.
It's just a bias time. They'll get started. We let Japan handle Godzilla until, they get those disaster declarations and they start requesting international assistance. And that's when we call, Randy Quaid. And we get him in his crop dusting plane and we send him over there.
If anybody
fucking
can
takes
crop
care of
dust,
that.
it's Randy Quaid. I bet he crop dusts every room he walks in. Anyway, yeah. Oh my God. So did you have to like suit up at Chernobyl?
No,
So you're
not
just
at
walking
all.
around there in street clothes.
100%. Now they our tour guide Yuri did give us some tips, like, if there are cracks in the concrete, maybe step over them. Don't step on the moss. I did a lot of reading beforehand about not purchasing any items from street vendors. You may find a neat looking wall clock, not knowing that it's been looted from an old apartment building in Pripyat.
And it's irradiated.
And it's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we toured. We got to see Chernobyl proper, where the reactor was.
Yeah.
And then we went to Pripyat, which was the town nearby where all of the workers and families of the workers of Chernobyl lived. And you talk about eerie, creepy vibes. That was the one time I felt a little wonky.
Yeah, because you're walking through a fucking ghost town.
Yeah. So we got to see, when you look up pictures, you type in Chernobyl, you see the bumper cars and you see the Ferris wheel and the big gymnasium and the pool. We got to see all of that. Walked right up to it, in the thick of it.
Yeesh.
And then we also got to see a school, which was a little creepy, but admittedly, you see a lot of those pictures. People have come in there, or like people just exploring, or looters. They start staging stuff and like placing like a kid's shoe next to a creepy one-eyed doll, and like that's staged.
Yeah.
So that didn't bother me. But after that, we toured an apartment building,
Okay.
and there weren't a lot of personal effects lying around still, from what I could remember. There was some, but it wasn't like the school.
Well, yeah, because some guy's selling a fucking clock.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I was only in there for a couple of minutes, and I just got this skin-crawling, goosebumpy, I don't need to fucking be here feeling. And I had to get out.
A bunch of ghosts telling you, we died here and get out.
It was some bad juju.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you think that...
I don't know. Like, I've obviously never been to Chernobyl, but I've also never been to, like, any concentration camps. And
I have been to one of those as well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, I've heard that those are extraordinarily somber, creepy places as well.
So I've been to Dachau. which did not feel especially creepy to me. Again, it was very odd. It was a beautiful, sunny
maybe emergency
day.
management, thinking about the dark times.
Well,
maybe that's your. Maybe
that's
that is
true.
a good profession for you. 'Cause I feel like a concentration camp would be a hot spot of bad juju.
I mean, it was somber.
Yeah,
for sure. Nobody was happy, especially to be there. But there were, aspects of that. You kind of walk as part of the self-guided tour. You essentially walk through. We'll call it intake. Where they would bring folks in.
Oh, God.
You see the movies where they take them in, and here's the lockers for your possessions, and here's the shower room that's not actually a shower room. You walk through all of that, which was definitely, it didn't feel good.
I wouldn't think so. But I guess what I was getting at was like, I feel like Chernobyl would be kind of a similar kind of vibe.
That apartment building definitely gave me...
Maybe slightly different because it's not the evil of man that took all these people out.
That's true.
Yeah. It's science, but at the same time, like, I feel like, when you concentrate a lot of death in one spot, it's going to not be a fun time.
It puts a black spot
Yep.
in time and space in the world.
Yeah.
But, as I've said, the what is it Bane says? That, you've adopted the darkness. The bleak.
You've adopted the darkness. You gotta get the... What?
I think I lost my mic.
Oh, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought I lost it for a second.
No.
My mistake. Okay.
No.
But yes, that's exactly right.
Gotta wiggle the wire.
Oh.
Oh my. Anyway. So, yeah. No, it's
interesting.
It is interesting.
It is definitely dark.
So do they have like a gift shop? I'm imagining like the Chernobyl gift shop. It's like, you can get like your, refrigerator magnets or your bumper stickers, or maybe I went to Chernobyl and all I got was this t-shirt,
Yeah, I went to Chernobyl and all I got was this third nipple, or
right, exactly. Or like, they could even sell like, like a Halloween prop, like the have like an eye. And like a stick-on eye that you could put in the middle of your forehead and be like, I went to Chernobyl, check it out, that kind of thing.
It's opportunities missed.
I feel like it is.
Yeah, they don't.
I mean, obviously you don't want to have it at the site.
Sure.
But like, maybe, because I'm assuming you guys staged somewhere else and traveled too.
Correct. Yes, we stayed in Kiev, and it was about a 2-hour drive.
So that's the thing. Put the shop in Kiev. Be like, it's the official Chernobyl gift site.
Nick, I got to tell you, if you've never been to Eastern Europe, they don't have the same sense of humor about things.
I wouldn't
actually,
think so. I feel like this is super offensive.
Well, I apologize.
I meant me talking about a gift shop for Chernobyl. Yeah.
But I would be there if Chernobyl had a gift shop. I would buy the fucking T-shirt. Take my money.
All right. So it's funny. I've been getting ads on Instagram, and I've actually had one of my friends, shout out to Luke, my 635 millimeter. He sent it to me. There is a company that is manufacturing humidifiers, and it's the Chernobyl plant. And so when it does the mist, it is. So you can get an official Chernobyl humidifier.
RBMK humidifiers do not explode.
I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't need a humidifier because,
sure.
I mean, I've got my Cigar Oasis in the humidor, which, by the way, shout out Cigar Oasis. It works wonderfully in my humidor. But, I don't need a Chernobyl humidifier, but,
You don't not need one.
I'm just saying in the wintertime it gets awfully dry around here, I mean, maybe in the bedroom, sleeping at night, maybe it would help my sinuses if I had a Chernobyl kicking out some nice mist over the course of the evening.
That sounds fantastic.
I'm saying, Okay. Well, fine. Well, okay, before we move on to other things here, what is like the takeaway that people should know about emergency management and just kind of all of this. We've been all over the board, and I
Sure.
know it's kind of hard to sum up, like what you do in the
Mhm.
space of I don't know, we've been at this about 45 minutes now. It's like, yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, I'll have to go back to those three preparedness kind of steps that I said before: making a plan, building a kit, and staying informed. For the litany of situations that could happen, the things that we've talked about today,
From fires to earthquakes to kaiju.
that's exactly right. All of those things can help you not only be more resilient before disasters, being prepared during disasters, and then helping you to recover from those disasters
Yeah.
faster. If people are listening to this and they're like me and they like thinking about the worst case scenarios and wow, this is really kind of interesting, I would invite folks to look up their local emergency management agencies. They may have those community emergency response training programs, police academies, ways that you can get involved.
Yeah.
Just helping inform your own sense of what's going on, and maintaining some situational awareness, knowing what's going on in the world and in your community, just helps make you more prepared in general.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Well, before we get into some other fun here, I do want to touch base on the Warfighter Dumpster Fire. I am kind of getting close to the band here. I'm about just right at the line of the second, third, and the final third. And, for what is admittedly a budget-friendly cigar, this has been a wonderful surprise. I kind of went into this thinking okay, how's the construction going to be? How's this going to be? Whatever, especially since it's mixed filler and all that. The ash holds on really, really well. The burn line has been meticulously straight. The draw on it has been great. Smoke production has been really nice. Flavor-wise, I'll admit it's cigar. It's kind of hard to pull out specific flavor notes from it. It's cigar. But it's not unpleasant, and it's smoking wonderfully. So, I don't know if this was I think this might have been a limited thing. I don't know. But 5 of these for $30, that's a deal all day long I'll sign up for. So I'm very pleased with this cigar. So I want to thank Toby for giving me this, because this actually is smoking really well. So now let's go ahead and do this. It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. And guys, remember, Villiger is the headline sponsor for 2024 Pulpit Fest down in Palm Coast, Florida. And I had a conversation with Renee just the other day about everything there. And he will be joining me on the show here probably next week. Looks like, assuming that all goes well schedule-wise, it looks like next week I will have Renee on the show, where we will be unveiling all sorts of things about Pulpit Fest, including what the big grand prize is that will be raffled off. And you guys, I keep harping this. If you're attending Pulpit Fest, have your passport ready or in process. If you don't have one, apply for one. If you have one, make sure it's going to be good until I'd say the end of next year at the latest or earliest. Have your passports prepped and ready, because you're not going to want to miss out on, if you win the grand prize, you're not going to want to say, shit, I can't take it because I don't have a means to get out of the country. So I'm just saying, I'm hinting it a lot. You can definitely read between the lines, but trust me, you're going to want to have your passport ready. So, Cherry, this is the part of the show where we discuss things that we've been entertained by, various things that we've watched, read, listened to, whatever. A lot of times it focuses on TV and movies because that's, easy. But we've talked about books, we've talked about podcasts, we've talked all kinds of stuff. So do you have anything?
Yeah, sure. So just without getting too much back into the doom and gloom, I will say that I just finished reading Nuclear War, a Scenario.
God! Oh my God!
It's by Annie Jacobson.
Should have called you the Angel of Death instead of Cherry Chernobyl. What the fuck? Nuclear War by who?
By Annie Jacobson.
Okay.
It's essentially talking through based on U.S. military protocol and procedures, some of these emergency operations plans. It's essentially laying out minute by minute what the United States military response would be to a first strike nuclear attack. So I'll just say that if that's your thing, if you've been listening to me talk about how terrible things can be and
you're like,
and all
I
the time
really want to know how it's going to go down when Putin fires a rocket.
That's right. I would recommend the book. If you like horror, if you like to be scared, this is not billed as a horror, but I was white-knuckling the steering wheel listening to this audiobook a couple of times.
Okay.
But outside of that, in the vein of what most normal people enjoy and like how they like to spend their free time.
Okay.
I actually saw Deadpool Wolverine recently.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah, no, I've talked about it a little bit on the show already.
Okay.
But,
I'm just going to recommend
it. That's okay. Yeah, no.
But my big thing lately has been rewatches.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just that nothing's jumped out at me, or maybe it's that I like the comfort of a standby of something I know that I've seen.
And that goes to one of my points, is that with this day and age of streaming that we're in, I find it difficult to kind of expand out sometimes, because I really enjoy grabbing the clicker and just channel surfing until I find something that looks interesting. And you can't really do that with streaming. You have to know what you want. And yeah, you can float along and let's look at the top 10. Let's look at you're looking at an image. It's not the same,
No, it's really not.
And so so rewatches, I do rewatches quite frequently as well. Mm-hmm. So I get it. I get it. So what have you been rewatching?
I recently just finished rewatching The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. Okay. So it's a modernization of a Poe adaptation. If you haven't seen it, it's great. I mean, I haven't read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. I don't have anything against poetry, but it's not really my thing. But even still, fantastic. And honestly, Carla Gugino, I had to make sure I was pronouncing that correctly. Okay. I'll watch anything she's in. Okay. She's amazing. Okay. She really gives a stellar performance. Okay. So it's a quick, easily digestible, despite the content and it having some poetry in there, heavy nod to Poe. It's great.
So I had my son this weekend, so as the listeners know, that means that it's a heavy dose of Thomas the Tank Engine Storybots and Clifford the Big Red Dog. And then realistically, I've still been swamped with all kinds of stuff. I mean, July was insane, and it has bled over into August. So, my watching of things has kind of, significantly slowed. I have been just in the background a lot watching Home Improvement. Yeah, exactly. So Facebook started feeding me these reels of clips from the shows, and I'm watching. I'm like, I remember really liking that show, and so I just kind of started. I did admittedly start with season 2. I did not watch season 1 because it just they
gotta iron the kinks out.
You do, and I don't know. As with all shows, I haven't found one yet that I'm like, yes, that's the one. As with all shows, the kids bug me so much.
Oh, yeah.
The Sopranos, AJ and Meadow were just absolutely horrible. I hated anything doing with them for the most part. They were obnoxious. They were, I couldn't stand AJ and Meadow. Breaking Bad, I couldn't stand the one son. Flynn.
Walt
I
Jr.
couldn't stand him.
I couldn't either.
You know, on The Americans, I could not stand the daughter. The son I didn't really have a problem with because, quite frankly, he was just kind of a piece of furniture for the most part in that show.
He was a side character in his own family, I feel like.
He really was.
He spent more time with the neighbor than he did with his own parents.
He didn't know anything about anything until the very end when the neighbor went and told him, hey, your family's a bunch of Russian spies. Like, you know, it's like he had nothing, you know.
Sweet, sweet idiot.
Yeah. So, like, you know, he was kind of fine, but whatever. But no, the daughter, oh, God, I could not stand the daughter. And in this case, the boys on Home Improvement, they come in, and, like, anytime they come in, it's just, like, just in chaos. They're just fighting and this and that and whatever. And I'm just like, I cannot stand these kids. So, you know, whatever. And I've also kind of come to the conclusion that that show does kind of suffer from the 90s and probably before trope of always making the wife the bad guy. Like,
oh yeah,
like Tim is doing like some really like selfish shit a lot of times, but yet somehow Jill always ends up being the bad person. And I just and a lot of, I don't know, it's kind of fucked up in that regard too. But then when they try to make her do something cool, it comes off as kind of like cheesy or like unbelievable, because you're like, she's been lame in the 24 out of the 25 episodes this season. She can't be cool in this one. You know, it's just,
right.
I don't know. I don't get it. But
yeah,
anyway.
I have noticed that, you know, there has been a changing trend in not just TV and movies, but even like anecdotally and in people that I know in real life, that kind of dynamic of husband and wives that hate each other and just pick at each other all day long, that seems to be changing. Like I hesitate to say that it's one more thing millennials have killed, but I feel like millennials have gotten better about trying to be in marriages with people that they actually like. Or just getting a fucking divorce. Now,
I was gonna say,
maybe it makes a funnier show. Home Improvement would not be funny, I'm sure, if the annoying wife took off with the 3 tornadic wild children,
ran away with the neighbor that we never see his face, that
right.
sort of thing. But whatever.
He looks in the window and he only sees his face as he's with his wife. That motherfucker.
Oh my God. He goes to the fence. It's like, how's my boys doing, Wilson? Holy shit. Oh God. Anyway, so no, that's really what I've been watching. Now a movie came out this past weekend that I do want to go see, and I haven't had the time for it, but I'm hoping perhaps maybe this upcoming weekend I might be able to go and make some time for it, and that's the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Trap.
Yes, I want to see that.
I think that looks really good. Now, I think that also plays into emergency management to a degree, because the plot of this movie is that they have this concert, and they, like, I guess for whatever reason, they somehow know that this serial killer is going to attend this concert.
That's your intelligence community operating behind the scenes.
And so, like, once everybody's in their seats, that's when law enforcement, like, descends upon the stadium and basically, like, cordons off all the exits and easeways and everything else. And the whole goal is that they're looking for and trying to find this serial killer. Played by, what, is it Josh Hartnett?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, now there obviously has to be a twist, because we learned all that from the preview. And it's M. Night Shyamalan, and he's not going to give away the twist in the fucking preview.
Right.
So, like, we have to know that there's something else coming. But that's what I know. It looks pretty decent, and I want to check it out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like you. I was thinking about the twist, because we always know it's going to be something. That's what M. Night Shyamalan does. But
with mixed results.
Well, you're right. Exactly.
Like The Village. The Village was not very good.
Oh,
The Village.
I was quite disappointed in The Village.
What was the one with the trees, where the trees were killing people?
Oh,
I think that had Marky Mark in it.
Yeah. Sans Funky Bunch. Just Marky Mark.
Just Marky
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah.
That one was kind of like, whatever, too. Devil, though, was fucking great.
I loved Devil.
That was a great, underrated movie. I think that if you want a good M. Night Shyamalan movie that actually was entertaining and kept me captivated till the end, Devil was a great movie.
I agree. That movie has great rewatchability as well because I've
I only watched it
that
the
several
once.
times.
I haven't watched it again. I've only watched it the once. But
It's good. It's a quick watch. It gets right to the
I watched
action.
it on a plane.
No...
I had downloaded it and I had it on my iPad and I watched it on a flight somewhere.
Okay.
So.
Well, that nuclear war book that I mentioned earlier, like I said, I was listening to an audiobook. I started it while getting onto a flight. And just as it really took off and started getting real, the plane hit turbulence, and I thought, okay, this is enough real life scare for me. I'm gonna hit pause on this and
bring it down to earth a little bit.
I'm gonna switch over on this.
Okay.
But
okay, all right. Well, that's the Villiger Entertainment Report. So now let's go ahead and do our new segment from Blackbird Cigars, and it's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. And I swear, one of these days here soon, I'm going to get a stinger prepped for this thing. But instead, prior to that, I'm going to read it. So Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted, repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars can't clip our wings. Now, this is the segment where we go over somebody who did something badass. And I want to talk today about George Hood. George Hood is an ultra athlete and former U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration Special Agent. And George Hood, he holds the Guinness World Record for the plank or prone hold. In 2011, he set the world record for doing the plank for 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 5.1 seconds. He was 54 years old at the time that he did that. He also previously held the Guinness World Record for static spin cycling at 22 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds. That dude has got, that's some stamina. That's some ridiculous strength. And so we want to be like George Hood and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings. So.
Guys got something going on with the number twos?
Yeah, with the spin at least.
Yeah.
I mean, but fuck, can you imagine doing a plank for basically an hour and 21 minutes?
Absolutely not.
I mean,
absolutely not.
Continuous. You don't stop.
No.
That's oh God, that's some core strength right there. That's ridiculous.
No.
Um,
or could you imagine? He's a DEA agent. He's the DEA agent that's chasing you down.
You're boned.
He's on a
You're
bike.
boned.
He's like, I could do this all day, bro.
I could do this all day.
All day.
22 hours, or no? How many hours? What did I say? 222 hours. Yeah, 222 hours.
222 hours.
22 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's just do that math for a minute. 222 divided by 24. That's 9.25 days. But it's not 9.25 days because he also did it for another 22 minutes and 22 seconds. So you're talking like, about 9.5 hours that he did that shit. Or 9.5. No. Not 9.5 hours. 9.5 days.
9.5 days.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, it's about 9.25 because then the 22. You're adding an extra. Whatever. It's basically almost.
It's over a week.
It's over 9 days. Straight.
You're not sleeping.
Yeah. How did he do that?
How?
I don't know. Well, I'm getting this from a website called ashotofadrenaline.net.
Wow.
So, theoretically, I'm taking their word for it that's...
is this guy cycling in a diaper?
What? Maybe.
Got one of those bags like a horse.
Well, you're going to have something because, it can't possibly be a diaper because, diaper rash would kick in after 9 days.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean,
He had to have taken a break.
He had to have. Sleep deprivation is torture. How do you not only not
He
sleep,
had to have taken
but
a break.
cycle for 9 days?
I don't know. I mean, eating, unless, maybe he can go really slow and it still counts,
Yeah,
but
I guess so.
Fuck. I don't know.
He's a hell of a man.
And indeed. And speaking of fuck, try fucking good coffee. So, fucking good coffee from our friend Nick Gervais over there. He's got a variety of different blends available on fuckinggoodcoffee.com. Light roast to dark roast, something for every coffee palate. And the beauty is, because he also has mymonthlycigars.com, he blends these coffees to work with cigars. So, all the different coffees will work with your cigars, but the lounge blend specifically is tailored to work with any cigar. So if you want to have a wonderful coffee to smoke or to drink with your smoke in the morning or at any point in the day, because you can do it as iced coffee, you can do it as, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. I'm not a big coffee guy, so I don't really know all the different things you can do with coffee, but I know that there are different things other than just drinking it hot and pouring it over ice. So, I mean, whatever. You can do whatever you want with it. But go over to fuckinggoodcoffee.com. Give him a try. I believe he has little subscription packages to where you can get the coffee shipped to you on the regular. And, guys, don't be a fucker. Drink fucking good coffee. And then in terms of the socials, I'm available on Instagram at The Cigar Pulpit. I'm also available on Facebook where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You want to get in on the fun there. Twitter/X, where I don't really do much. YouTube, where you can watch this. And I do need your calls for the Ask the Pulpit segment. Area code 863-874-0000. Get those calls in. Get your questions. Get your comments. Get your life thoughts. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be about cigars. If you want to call in and ask a question about, I don't know, whatever the hell you want to ask a question about. I'm going to attempt an answer. I don't necessarily profess to know that it's going to be the best answer, but, I can give you an answer. But call in, and I like hearing from you. And that's how I get to do those Ask the Pulpit episodes, which are always handy when I'm looking for something to do and I can't pull together a guest like Cherry Chernobyl here to come over and talk about emergencies. So, do that. I would appreciate it. And I would ask where people can follow you, but since we're keeping you anonymous, we're not going to go down that road.
I would say in a past life, I would have said you could reach me by calling 911, but I don't do that these days anymore. But yeah, you can seek out your local emergency management agencies if you want more information or help. But
well, and they should potentially all have social media of their own, to where you can get updates and things like that. I know I subscribe to my county's local emergency management on Facebook, so whenever stuff's going on, they post regularly to Facebook and share updates and things of that nature. Sometimes be it heat advisories, like what we're fucking under right now, as we're sitting out here at 10:30 at night, sweating my ass off. Whatever, or whatever kind of emergency type thing. So you can track your emergency management people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am very nearly done with the dumpster fire. I am down to near the end here, and ironically, the fire seems to be going out. It is kind of keeping a little bit of a oh god, it got really smoky on the camera there, but a little bit of a burn going, but I do think it requires a touch up if I want to keep it going. I'm probably going to go ahead and just go ahead and let it go, because the kind of cigar flavor at the end there is a little much for me. But by and large, it was not a bad smoke, especially when you take into account the fact that you get 5 for $30. I mean, that brings it in at a $6 cigar. Not a bad deal at all. And once again, I want to thank Toby for giving me the dumpster fire from Warfighter Tobacco. I agree with them on their website. They said it would make for a good everyday smoke, and I agree. I think, if you're looking for a good car smoke, you're looking for a good, something a little step up from some of the really cheaper cigars for like a grass cutting cigar or a dog walking cigar, this would the dumpster fire would make for a good one, if you can get a hold of them, because again, I don't know how limited or rare they may possibly be, but I enjoyed it. So Cherry, thank you so much for taking time out tonight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Nick. Thank you for having me. I
was
appreciate it.
This was a good time.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, again, we will be having Renee from Villiger on the show coming up soon, and Lord knows who else. I'm kind of building out the calendar and trying to get things prepped and ready so that I can be prepared for Pulpit Fest and all the fun there. So, anyway, I think that's it. So, guys, this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. That's Cherry Chernobyl. Everybody stay safe and stay smoky.
Bye, everybody.
Telling you, t-shirts, stocking hats, magnets, bumper stickers, all that shit. You just get a nice little gift shop stand right there in Kiev. You just sell the shit out of it, make it the official stand. You'd get some tourists that would totally bite on that. Now, granted, I don't know how much tourism is taking place in Kiev these days.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was a lot of tourism taking place back when I went in 2009, but I would love to see the looks on people's faces when I had a city of Pripyat, water bottle or something, or,
God. You're just like, I'm drinking the water from Chernobyl. Oh, dear God. Later, guys.